Hey, all, so glad that you're with us. We're getting ourselves set up and started here. You can see I'm in a hotel room in, hey, great looking hat, Dave. You can see that I'm in a hotel room. Uh, we're in El Paso, Texas. Have made our way all the way to El Paso, Texas, Dave. Started it at the beach just outside of San Diego with our wheels in the ocean, went through California, through Arizona, through New Mexico, and just crossed the Rio Grande River into the beauty of Texas, where we'll be for the next 29 days, 29 days in Texas. It's a big state. So some people are going to be joining us here, popping on, and we're going to get some updates from them on their ride. Dave Gibbons, who you can see there with the great hat on, from our Love Beyond Borders motto for this ride, was able to be with us just yesterday or 2 days ago, and rode 61 miles. Dave, I don't want to steal your thunder. Maybe you're going to tell everybody you rode 61 miles, but Dave came in for a day. Look, people do this. Some people come for a day. Dan Dietrich's been with us for 10 days. Anthony was with us for 5 days. Some people were with us for 3 days. We have people coming and going. We'd love for all of you to join us. WeThePeopleRide.org has all the information about where and when we will be, and we'd be glad to have you join us as you make your way. So, hey, Dave, while people are joining us here, would you be willing to give a little reflection on your time with us as we made our way across the New Mexico desert?
Well, I just confirmed how crazy Doug Paget is, to take on this endeavor. No, but Shane and I were talking on the way back to Tucson, how proud we are of you, Doug, and also the team. And you had this impossible dream, and then you execute on it. And so we're really grateful to you to leading the charge with the team, with Tim and the others. But I think for me, we had a ton of support. So 61 miles was a lot for sure. I've never, ridden that much in one day. I've done Peloton, 15, 20 miles a day, but nothing like 61, uphill and with some elements. But, we had Tim, we had, Ruben, we had different people that gave us power bars, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, encouragement along the way. So, we were well supplied, even though it was difficult in our bodies. So what made me think about was how hard it must be if you're venturing from Central America or South America and you're coming to across the borders. I don't know how you could survive with the threat, from the coyotes to the drug lords to dealing with border patrol. I mean, it seems unlikely that anybody could survive that. So I think for me, I experienced maybe a teeny bit of the trauma just thinking about it on their behalf.
Hey, Dave, I was thinking about this, that we were riding along when all the way through New Mexico there, and we kept looking over toward where the border between US and Mexico would be on our right as we were riding, and just thinking like, how would anyone be out there? Like, would people really be crossing? I don't know if you had this feeling, but I was even thinking while riding out in that area, like maybe this is an area where people who are trying to get into this country because there's no legal way for workers to enter the country could be getting in. And then just at the end of our ride, when we were packing up and we got in the vehicles and we're driving back the direction we'd come to where we were staying, and you guys driving back to Tucson, do you want to mention at all about what we saw there on the side of the road?
Yeah, we saw the Border Patrol. They had obtained, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 at least, traveling across the desert. And you could see they were distraught sitting there under the Border Patrol control. And you could just feel the anguish in their faces while we drove by. You went to reach out and do something, but it was hard to watch there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. It was really something, because you see, we'd met with some of these people who had been detained and apprehended in the desert and then returned to Mexico. We were at a migrant center with them in Agua Prieta and in Nogales, and meeting these people, some asylum seekers, some border crossing, not at the port of entry. And when you hear their stories, and I'll recount one of these later, Alfredo's story that he told us on video, and we're putting out soon. They're heartbreaking tales of human survival. The stories that we were hearing, they sound like the kind of stories that you make movies about, and the heroism of what people will do for goodness and life and for their families. And yet somehow these get mixed up with our immigration laws, and people get confused about them. So it's really a difficult thing. Dave, I don't know how long you're going to stay, but I just want to give you a chance to reflect any more if you have any other thoughts on the ride so far, or you're part of the ride.
Yeah, the main thing for me was just how I don't see how people can do it. And then secondly, just the injustice of us being such a generous nation, and we're not able to be generous enough to help those who really are desperate to come here for survival, but also are going to add to the innovation and to the workforce that we actually need in America. They're going to do work that many of our friends would never touch. So it just saddens me why there's this huge gap, this disparity that we have between practical solutions and this idea that we so embrace in America.
Yeah, well, great thought there, Dave. Thanks again for being with us. And again, if people want to join us, we'd really love to have you. Some of the people you see on the screen have done this. One has been with us from the start. Is on a little break for a couple of days. Daniel's with us for a few days here. Tim and Brandon are part of our support crew that are traveling. So it really is possible for you to come down and not ride a mile. You don't have to ride a mile and still be really helpful and really engaged and get yourself close to these issues. All right, hey Daniel, anything on your reflection? You've been with us now for I've lost track. You probably remember how many days and how many miles you've ridden.
Yeah, I biked through the entire state of New Mexico. Can you hear me okay? I'm on the RV and it's a little loud.
Gotcha.
But that's more than I've ever biked. And like Dave was saying, when you're out there, you just see the expanse and the nothingness that's out there, and you can't imagine crossing it without help. Like I can't imagine carrying enough water to physically survive that journey. And yet people are trying it day in and day out. And one of the other striking things to me was we've talked to several Border Patrol agents who have said, we've asked about the wall and its effectiveness, and they're like, oh, it doesn't work. It slows them down slightly and allows us to catch them after they cross, but it slows them down just a little bit. They keep, like, people can get over the wall in a matter of a minute, so it's millions and millions of dollars per mile for this wall that doesn't do its job. And that money could be spent elsewhere for asylum court judges and other resources that would make this problem solvable.
Yeah. Hey Dan, say a little bit more about the riding experience itself and kind of bringing together. You've been, you were at migrant centers where migrants were held, and sometimes people might wonder, like, well, why go out there and ride between the cities? Or, we've ridden now, over 800 miles. In fact, we're marking that today with asking people to make a donation to get us, $800 or $8,000 or $80,000, something at our 800 mile mark. But would you say something about both of the experiences, the up close and personal experience? You've, as one of our videographers, you've stood right there with migrants and asylum seekers as they tell their stories. And then days later, we're out there riding on the road. Can you just give a little reflection about those two realities?
Yeah. So when we're, visiting with folks that have tried to cross the desert, we've talked to people who have tried multiple times and not been able to cross. Sometimes they have to give up and offer themselves up to Border Patrol just to survive because they've been out of water for days and they will literally die if they don't get water and get help. And then they're sent back to Mexico and they want to try again. And so I think it's one thing to hear that story and sort of imagine the desert that they try to cross through. And it's another thing to be out there yourself and feel the sun and feel the the elements and see just how barren the landscape is, and imagine trying to cross it. And for me, I just keep coming back to the question, what would I be willing to do for my family? Because so many of these people, the reason they're doing it is because they want a better life for their loved ones. And I think that's something that most people can understand. Like, you would do anything for your kids, you would do anything for your partner, your loved ones, your parents. And so I think that's a common thread that hopefully we can get across, that these people aren't coming here to like break laws. They're coming here because they believe the promise that we've sold, that America is a place of opportunity and freedom and hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, Dan. I'm putting up here on the screen one of the conversations that we had with one of the people who you're mentioning, who crossed the border and was apprehended by Border Patrol and then brought back across Mexico. And we met him at one of the migrant shelters that he's staying in. And this image here is you behind him, filming him, because he doesn't want his face shown on social media here. And then Anthony and I are sitting across from him. One of the people that were our hosts is over the rail there. Danny Strong is an actor and TV producer and writer, is sitting in this image. And we sat for 45 minutes with this man who told us his story of leaving Honduras, a small island off of Honduras that the entire economy of that little island is driven by the cruise ship industry. And we remember that because of COVID-19 in the spring of 2020, it shut down the cruise ship industries and is still not returned to this part of Nicaragua. So his family started to starve. Told us he was 40 years old and he realized if he doesn't try to get to the United States to make enough money to pay off the debts that his family has incurred because of COVID, because in Honduras, they weren't bailed out. They weren't given stipends from the government like we were in the United States. And if he doesn't get here in his 40s, no one's going to want to hire a 50-year-old worker. So for 45 minutes, he recounted a harrowing journey coming through Guatemala and through Mexico, and then up to the border and coming over the border wall and being held by drug cartels and being held captive by a rancher that he worked for, and all the abuse that he saw along the way. Look, these stories are just riveting and harrowing stories. He told us that we could record them, and we did, and we're going to put these out. We'll blur his face and also have the audio. You'll be able to hear these stories. But that man there, we were with him on Saturday. And on Saturday, he was telling us about how on Tuesday night, he thought he was going to die in the desert. He really believed he was going to die and had to get up enough energy to come forward and to make his way to the out to the road to be apprehended. And it was just days before we spoke to him. And the next day we saw him and he had a backpack on and said, I'm going to get on a bus and I'm going to try to find a way to save my family. It's a 19-year-old daughter who has scoliosis and can't care for herself, and she needs a surgery to be able to do what she needs to do in her life to care for herself. And here he was trying to say, I have almost no time left. This is what I have to do. So look, you can think all you want about whether people should get in line and cross legally or all of these stories, but truth be told, there's no way for him to enter this country, not only because of Title 42, which is the pandemic-driven excuse for not allowing anyone to cross who's not a U.S. citizen to cross the U.S.-Mexico border, but also our worker visa programs don't exist in a way that he can enter. So he has a brother-in-law that lives in Los Angeles, and he knows if he could get to Los Angeles to work for a few years, that could make all the difference for his family and for his daughter. And looking this man in the eye and seeing and hearing not only the bravery and the courage and the commitment that is, it's just utterly riveting. So we take this work really seriously, of what we know we're able to do here. We know that not everyone can do this work. We know that not everyone can come down and ride their bicycle from, one side of our country to the other along the border for, we've been out here for 20 days now. We're going to do it for 67 days. We know it's not possible for everyone to do it. But that's why we're out here, is because we want you to hear these stories and know these stories. Last week, we posted on our social media, and you can follow all of this, interviews with 3 women from Guatemala, 3 moms who packed up their children and made it to the US border to ask for asylum, only to be turned back and sent to the same migrant shelters, same kinds of migrant shelters that we're talking about. So that's what we're living with and dealing with down here. And then all the people who are providing the solutions to this, at least temporarily, the people running these centers, the people giving goodness to them, the people who are running schools for the children while they're being held waiting in Mexico for their asylum case. So what we're finding is that there's so much hope and goodness and common good going on, in addition to our broken policies in the United States. And so we're saying everything we can to every politician, many of whom we work really hard to get elected and want to keep working hard to get them elected, that it's their time to step up and to do the right thing. And so we're going to do all that we can to tell the story from San Diego to Brownsville, Texas, along the US-Mexico border, and then along the coast, which also represents the other ports of entry that people are making their way in. So that's the work we're doing. Wanda or Dan, anything you want to say right here as a couple of the riders along the way? And I've got a video to show as well, and a couple of other photos. Thanks, Wanda.
All right, am I talking here? Trying to get my phone propped up where I didn't have to hold it. My arms are. Yeah, I've been struck by the hope and the dire necessity of the people that's needing. It's kind of like their last hope of survival, and their kids. I'm struck by how much, even though the trauma that the kids have endured, yet there's hope for the future there. They're in the migrant camp, waiting for the amnesty, or not amnesty, the asylum. Get my words mixed up here. As far as the riding goes, it's been hard for me physically to keep the pace, but I was happy to be able to finish the ride 2 days ago, 61 miles. And I'm really, really looking forward to rejoining us on Tuesday next week.
Yeah. Thanks, Wanda. Great to have had you. Hey, I want to show you another photo here. We only have a few sort of selected up. It's been a lot of work to shoot videos and get those off of our phones, but this is one of a group ride that we did in Agua Prieta, which is a beautiful town just connected to Douglas, which is between Tucson and El Paso, an area that if you try to pick it on a map, some people would have trouble finding. But we went for a ride in the morning, a 24-mile ride, 12 miles up a mountain, 12 miles back down a mountain, with a group of riders that ride every Sunday morning. And it was so great to ride with them. All people living in this beautiful town of Mexico, and all wanting there to be a different relationship with the United States. It was really great. This one had all the people you've heard from today, other than Dave, he joined the next day, but Adam Glickman was there, Danny Strong, Shane Claiborne, and then this group of other people. There are more than 20 of us, 23 of us, maybe 29. We should count up the number. All riding together. And this idea and this feel that we were going to all ride together really told a story of what we hope the future looks like, that there's going to be a chance for a lot of us to do other things together. And I'll just share this, that same day, maybe, I hope you can see this. I kind of double clicked on a photo. Do you all see the photo of the woman in the wheelchair? Maybe that's not showing properly.
Yes. Oh, it was.
You did see it? Okay, sorry about that. She also didn't want her face to be shown. She had climbed the border wall trying to get into the country. She's not a drug dealer. She's not a drug coyote. She's a mom trying to make a way for her children. She fell off the wall and shattered her pelvis. She's in a wheelchair. We stood with her and looked her in the eyes. We were actually at this moment, we were at a ceremony for a 24-year-old man who died in the desert. Went around with a little thing going on, and we all looked each other in the eyes, and a number of us who walked right past her tried to look her in the eyes, and her eyes were just full of tears. So many conflicted feelings. So there's this sense in which there's the beauty of the people who say, yes, ride with us, we can make another future. And then the pain of the one who died in the desert, and then the pain of the one who fell off of an 18-foot high wall. We all know moms who would do anything for their children, and to bear witness to one of those, to see her in a wheelchair, doing all that she can. It's just really, it's really riveting and heartbreaking. We just want you to know these stories are going on daily. We ran into a number of Border Patrol, and we asked them out in the middle of the desert area, do you pick up many migrants out here? And, oh yeah, we pick them up all the time, all day long. There are people who are doing what they can. I just want to stress this again, that the United States has limited any migrants who don't have citizenship from coming into the United States across the Mexican border. If you just have a visa to work, you can't come. This is all under what's called Title 42, which is the health emergency because of COVID. We're asking the Biden administration to drop that mandate, to lift that restriction, and to allow people to come into the country. And then we need a worker program so that that woman doesn't have to climb a wall. She can come in legally. Everybody who says, well, we just want people to come in the country, we want them to come in legally. So do we. I can tell you interview after interview, and we'll be showing them to you, of people saying, make a way for people to come into our country. We don't have a flood of migrants coming to our country. In fact, in the last 10 years, we're in a decline. We have a negative flow of people leaving the United States, not coming in. It's time to change our protocols and to increase the number of people who are coming in this country. So that's something that we really need to do and need to make sure that it happens. I've got a video from Shane here. I won't go too much longer here for this, but anybody else with some updates? I know that Brandon's on, Tim, and maybe some people are making some comments on the on social media. If you write a comment on social media, wherever you're watching this, we have people monitoring that. They'll send the questions over to us, and we'll put that out. And by the way, the way we do this is that some people are paid to do this work, to be able to get these stories out to you. So if you make a contribution, you fund that work. You also fund the people in these migrant camps that we go to, in these migrant centers, and we're giving them the money that you're sending to us. So we're doing the best that we can to fund both our necessary work and then the crucial work that they're doing. But Brandon, Tim, either of you have anything you want to share?
For me, it's just been every day of amazement at the writers. I mean, y'all have just been charging through. In the beginning, I think it seemed like, in my mind, 30 miles seemed really ambitious, and you've been writing 40, 50, 60 plus mile days. And so we've had people just like Dave drop in and just show up and just crank out a whole day's worth of biking. And I'm just amazed at you all. And so I think there's something really, really telling about the willingness of all of you to do that. I was just sitting here with Dan, this guy, Dan, talking about how, this isn't something he's done before, and isn't something he probably ever really expected to do. But the drive or the concern for the plight of these people is enough to drive all of you to do this. And I think that alone is inspiring. And I really do. I have so much hope for how much awareness can be raised to really kind of tell the story more accurately, so that the rest of the country can really understand these situations.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. I'm going to share a little picture. That's Brandon, a photo of Brandon on the ground, writing day 20. It's our 20th day. Every day we start with a line on the ground where we're starting, what day it is, and then we finish with a line of where we rode. We want to mark these. We want to mark them along with the other things that are being marked. So there's Brandon down on his luck, down on the ground, making this line. And I'm going to show one more photo here. So sorry, give me a minute to get to it. Pardon me. Well, anybody that's had to share a screen on Zoom, you know what happens when you get yourself lost in the brigade here.
You know who's good at that?
So here's
Rob
another one.
Ryerson. Just the best.
He's good at screen sharing.
Yeah.
He's a screen share master. Okay, so here's another one that I want to point out. This is a photo from inside of our RV yesterday. The person with the red shirt on there, that's Abe Bonowitz. Abe has been riding with us for the last couple of days. Abe runs an organization called Death Penalty Action, a national group trying to stop the death penalty in every state and federally. Abe was running a vigil yesterday calling for the United States government to not execute a man at 6 p.m. Central Time. We were running that vigil after riding 61 miles, running a vigil to be in prayer for a man who was going to be executed. Brandon now is playing his guitar, singing a song for that vigil, which was being live streamed around the world. And you see in the background, Mario, another one of the riders, and Tim. So in the midst of all the rest of what we have going on, people are still running the rest of their lives. There's Abe running a prayer vigil in his work, and then Brandon stepping up with his guitar and singing 2 songs to be a part of that prayer vigil. And it's just kind of awesome, right? So thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Abe. I know Abe is there in the vehicle with you as well. So the reason I show that is because, look, everyone has a place. Everyone has a part in this thing. Everybody has a thing that they can be doing. And we'd love to have you find your part. Maybe it's sending us a note of encouragement, sharing this with someone, coming out and riding with us, sending some money, sending some baked goods. I don't know, whatever it is that you do, we'd love for you to come out and get on the ground and write the chalk line for a day. Maybe that's all it is that you that you know how to do, but it really all matters. And we'll find a way, whether it's in the RV or the truck or the other things that we're pulling along to be able to share all of that. So love to have you come along. Tim, any comments from you before I show a little video from Shane here?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that I'm just struck with the tenacity of these folks. You mentioned already the gentleman the young guy that we're at the memorial for, and if I recall, that was his 3rd try that he had gone. It was his 3rd try, and he didn't make it. He died as a result of it. And just clearly what we have is not working. And there's far more motivation on the other side than we have, so that I'm just struck with that, with the fact that they would keep going. Because even if I had the courage to try it once, I probably wouldn't try it again. I would say, no, I'll figure something else out. So I think that's amazing. And there's some people that have tried more times than just that 3 times, but they get back on the bus and go at it again. And so that's just kind of humbling.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. And I'm going to show one more photo here. This is a photo that kind of that represents, I think, a lot of what we find to be so powerful about this work. As we've said a number of times, it's easy to look at the struggle. And sometimes just watching the struggle makes it hard to know what you could do, or sometimes could make you even feel like there's no hope. But then there's these people, the 2 people on your left there, the woman with the flowery shirt and then the woman holding the cross. They're both nuns that work at a migrant center in Agua Prieta, Mexico. It's right on the border. The border wall is the other side of that wall. Marks their place. You can see that they have a representation of the border wall, and their artistic representation is that flowers would grow up and then it would become butterflies and go away. However, that wall is going to someday go away because it says so much to these people. So they're taking in the migrants and caring for them, literally bandaging their wounds, literally putting life-saving fluids into them. We were there celebrating a 24-year-old man who on June 22nd of 2021 died. They couldn't help him enough. The man standing there is part of one of the indigenous communities in the area, and he was leading this service of planting this cross. And I show this photo because there are people all over who are doing the work. They're on the US side, they're on the Mexico side. They're moving back and forth over the 2 sides. The reason we call this Love Beyond Borders is because people show love that extends beyond our barriers and our borders. And these 3 people really represent just incredible things that are happening. So if you feel despair, and I understand why you would, don't only feel despair. Do feel it, because it's good too. But as we were told by one of the people who works diligently on Saturday night, we were having a street party there in Agua Prieta. He said, I was taught by my mentor when I first came here, you have to feel their pain, but you also have to celebrate life, because what's the point in feeling the pain if you don't celebrate life? So here we are with these same people who feel this pain so deeply, and then at this celebration and concert with some tasty food and musicians saying we're also going to celebrate life. So it's really quite incredible what's going on, and we're glad that you have a chance to see it. All right, I'm going to show a little video from Shane, and then we'll see if there's any questions. Again, if you're on social media anywhere and you pop a question up in comments, hopefully our people have a chance to see it, and we can share your comments. So here's another one.
Hey, I just made it back from the We the People ride. I'm still just a little bit sore, but feeling good. My body is tired, but my soul is energized. It was an amazing trip. Love Beyond Borders. And I just want to say, y'all, I rode 100 miles. I hope some of y'all give $100. Some of y'all might be able to give $3,200 for the 3,200 miles they're crossing. But this is one of those things that, here's what I love about my buddy Doug Paget. I mean, we've been friends for 20 years. He'll throw out these ideas that most people would think, you are absolutely nuts. And then they happen. We walked 130 miles from Charlottesville to DC. Now the whole team at Boat Common Good and We the People are riding 3,200 miles. Well, Doug's riding that, but we all try to do our best. Lord help us. But I think it's doing what we all want to do, is bring attention to the crisis on the border, move people's hearts with compassion. If these folks can bike all the way across the country, we can sure do what we can, to raise attention to this, to raise money to support them. So I'm hoping to get back down there. Y'all, I hope you can ride. Maybe you can ride a day. If you can't ride, then just do what you can to support the We the People ride, because it is incredible. And by the way, when you pull off something like this, like a cross the country bike trip, then your bar of what's impossible changes. So you go, can we end the death penalty? Heck yeah, man. We just rode bikes all the way across the country. Can we do immigration reform? Yeah, our God is big, and we got a lot of people who are caring about this stuff. So keep stirring people up. We cannot become silent and exhausted. We got to keep stirring up love right now. So love Beyond Borders. Love y'all.
So that was Shane Claiborne. Thanks, Shane. Appreciate you sharing as well. Hey, just during the Shane's video, I don't know about all of you, but on my computer, I have these notifications that are that get set up, and I start seeing notifications that pop up. And if I can get this one done right, I'm no Rob Ryersey. But right during Shane's presentation there, this notification popped up. And so I clicked on it because I thought maybe it would be something that we could share. And it was this headline from NBC News. Migrants returned to Mexico describe the horror of kidnappings, torture, and rape. We heard those stories ourselves. This news story, it's important that our journalists are there. Our journalists need to be there. But that story, that's one that we're hearing. We heard the stories ourselves. People told us this is what happened to them, what they saw with their own eyes. It's true. The U.S. migration policies are putting people who are vulnerable at greater risk. You have to change it. We call this the We the People ride because we're asking the question of who are the we that we include in the people of this country? How do we make a decision about that? We also use it because it's the preamble to the Constitution. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, we write. Because this is a government not of kings, not of lords, not of masters. It's a government of we the people. What our country does in its government is what we do, because it's a we the people government. We are sending people back to places of deep pain and horror. So, yes, we need to hear those stories, and we need to meet the people who are doing something about it. And the people who will do something about this are all of us. people watching this, the people calling, the people electing, the people doing their work. So people are wanting to tell these stories, whether it's the Haitians experience in Del Rio, where we're going to be in a week, or it's migrants who are sent back all across the border into more dangerous. But we rode these streets and heard the stories of the people who live in these towns that tell us about the drug cartels that make that put people at such risk. So it is true. And we need to do something about it. We need to put the drug cartels out of business by not having policies that allow them to extort and torture and abuse people. And the US government can do something about that by changing our own policies. And so we want you to wake up and see what's happening, also be filled with hope, and then to move forward in some action. So, well, Dave, Tim, and Dan, I think it's the final four of us, which means that we've probably come to the end of our time for this live stream. Just going to check in here with Britton and see if there's anything else on any of the social media places. People asking about how the routes look. Yeah, routes look, they're consistent. If you go to the wethepeopleride.org site, you'll see where we're going to be. You can also track us live, see where we are at any given point or when we were last riding earlier in the day. You can follow along on the map there and see where we're going to be. And so those routes look like the kind of work that we're going to be, or the path that we're going to be following. So they're staying consistent. So, all right, all, thanks so much for being a part of this. We know the 36-minute live streams are long for a lot of people. We try to do these updates. We'll be putting up regular video and photo and written updates on a regular basis. And we are raising money today, especially to mark our passing 800 miles, actually 871.75 miles, but 800 seems like a good number to ask people to contribute to. So if you're willing to make it a donation of any amount, but something to do with an 8 would be a good reason today. And maybe we'll come back in a couple hundred miles and remind you of 1,000 and 1,500 and 2,000 and then 3,000 miles too. And again, some of the money goes to fund the work that we're doing, and some of it goes to these migrants and to the migrant shelters. So it gets spread equally around the country and or around the work all across the country. So glad to have you. Anybody want a final word?
Hey, Doug, I think one thing just to mention to people is Title 42. I think it's coming up for a vote again, that we should call our representatives. And I think the Center for Disease Control is going to bring up the issue. Because Title 42, I think it was in 1946, it was enacted. And then Trump reused it again at the start of the pandemic. And so mostly, people don't know it. They're trying to get asylum when they're crossing the border. But normally there's a process for them to hear, get a hearing. But under Title 42, they have no options. They don't get due process. And so it's a really sad enactment of something that shouldn't be used today.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder, Dave. Yeah. Look, Title 42 might sound like it's some bureaucratic number. It just means it's the authorization that the government has to break its normal pattern because of a health emergency. So the pattern they're choosing to break is allowing people into the country, whether they're asylum seekers or visa holders. Because millions of people who can't, and this is only true at the Mexico border. You can come across the Canadian border. You can fly into the country from other places. And it's only true if you're not an American citizen. So we're just telling everyone we can meet, it doesn't make sense. It's not keeping us any safer. I promise you, we crossed the Mexico border a number of times. We did it in Tijuana. We did it in Nogales. We did it in Agua Prieta, and we did it last night in Palmera. And last night we got stopped by the customs coming back across the border at 9 o'clock after having dinner, and they searched our vehicle and kind of giggled about the work that we're doing. And we know what they're up to. But what they didn't do was worry about us having COVID. In fact, when we walked into the building where they made us walk in to be detained, the sign on the door says masks required. We all said, well, our masks are in the car. And they said, don't worry about it. So the idea that Customs and Border Patrol is somehow keeping America safe by keeping COVID out, by not allowing asylum seekers and visa holders to come into the country, they're just letting us come in and then go sit in an enclosed room inside of a federal building without masks on. So the Biden administration needs to lift this. I think you're right, Dave. The date is somewhere around October 3rd or 6th, something. need to do this. They need to lift this. So start making those calls. If you call your congressperson, if you call the president, do it, send an email, start talking to your friends. Say, do you know what Title 42 is? It doesn't make any sense. It needs to be lifted. We'll also tell you that the small towns along the border, the ones that border these Mexico towns, they are struggling now. Now that the COVID money is not flowing any longer, for a lot of people who are unemployed, it's really getting desperate on the border. So it really does need to happen for people on all sides. And we need to start opening up our doors to immigration again. They've been closed for more than a year and a half, and asylum has been shut down since Trump was elected, and that needs to be lifted. I just make one other comment because we got a comment from somebody who's watching this. Talk about Del Rio. We're going to be in Del Rio October 7th, 8th, and 9th. If you want to go to Del Rio because you saw what was happening with the Haitian migrants there, most of them have been moved out of Del Rio, but if that caught your heart, we're going to be there. So if you're saying to yourself, oh, who would I be with if I were to go to Del Rio? I can't go to Del Rio, Texas. I've never been there. You're going to have some friends there in Del Rio from the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So go onto our website. You can click to join us in Del Rio, fill out the form there. We'll send you all the information you need to have to be able to join us. And we'd love to have you come along and join us in Del Rio. And then we're going to be down in McAllen and going into Reynosa, Mexico. We'd love to have you there as well. And then down to Brownsville, and you can follow the whole schedule along the way. So we're doing all of this to get people close to the other people and say this is We the People. So again, you can find all the information over at wethepeople.ride.org, the links to our live track, the links to how you can participate with us virtually or in person, and the donation links and comment links, all that are there. So, all right, anybody else, final comment before we go? One last check on, okay. Thanks all. Really glad to have you. Look forward to checking in again in a week or so, and keep up with us on all these same places with all of our other updates. See you down the road.
Keep it going. See you guys.
Blessings, Dave.
Blessings to you.